You've heard it said that trauma is stored in the body and that early childhood trauma can impact and affect your body's, it can make you susceptible to illnesses and diseases. But did you know that there's actually a test you can take, a very simple checklist where you can see if it's possible that you could be at risk for developing illnesses in adulthood based on how much childhood trauma you had? The CDC and Kaiser Permanente put together a study of over 17,000 subjects to determine which traumatic childhood experiences had the most likelihood of manifesting into, how should I say this? I think you know what I'm trying to say. Which were the most adverse childhood experiences that could potentially determine whether somebody might develop a serious illness in adulthood. And they actually called this the ACE checklist. And ACE stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. It's a list of 10 experiences. And the more you say, and it's very simple. It's a checklist that you can go down and say, yes, I experienced that. No, I did not. The more yeses you have in this list, the higher your chances of developing a serious physical illness in adulthood. And this matters for us because anything that affects your voice, anything that affects your body affects your voice. And so we can go down this checklist and you can determine how many of these experiences you had in your upbringing. And it might help you understand how much trauma you're carrying around in your body. And this can help you get to know your voice better. It can also help you in determining how you choose to live your life, because if you have had a high number of these experiences, it's extra important for you to take good care of your body. It's extra important for you to eat highly nutritious foods and get away from the processed foods that have become so common in our culture. It's important for you to exercise and take on a routine of stress management practices. It's extra important. But we're going to look at this from a voice perspective today, and I have some visuals for us to look at. So we're not going to go through the actual 10 items on the list. I'm just going to give you a general understanding of what they are based on the different categories. And then I'll leave it to you to search this topic and take the checklist yourself. But already we can see with this slide that there are quite a few things on the list. 3 types of abuse are recognized on this list: emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. So if you can relate to any of those categories, if you had any of those experiences, you would put that on your list of adverse childhood experiences. And then there were 5 types of household dysfunction: domestic violence, which includes witnessing violence. So witnessing violence between parents or between parents and your siblings, or perhaps you were on the receiving end of the violence itself. So that's one category. Then substance abuse would refer to a parent who had a substance abuse problem, and that could be any type of drugs. It could be even pharmaceutical drug abuse or alcohol. Mental illness, so a parent who has mental illness or had mental illness when you were growing up, or perhaps a sibling that suffered from some kind of mental illness. Having this in your household contributes to what they call adverse childhood experiences. Divorce. A lot of people in my generation experienced the divorce of their parents, and this can create a serious amount of trauma. Another thing is incarceration. So incarceration is technically what it refers to is a long-term prison sentence, but I would also include things like a parent who was frequently arrested and perhaps never served a prison sentence, but perhaps had to have some kind of legal intervention, perhaps was taken to jail, spent a night or two in jail. Maybe this happened more than once. Maybe it happened only once, but some kind of legal intervention had to come in. So often when you get arrested, if you don't end up serving a prison sentence, there's usually some kind of sentencing, like the judge will sentence you to a rehabilitation clinic or forced therapy of some kind, or some kind of intervention depending on whatever the charge was. So I would say that even, and plus it's embarrassing if your neighbors see, like if you have a domestic violence background, chances are that the cops came out to your house at some point and the neighbors saw that. That takes on a certain level of shame that stays in your body. And when you're a child, you have to deal with that. You have to figure out how to work with these things. And then there are two types of neglect that were recognized in this study: emotional and physical. Emotional neglect could be withdrawing of affection, or if you had a parent or parents who were so busy with their life or their bad habits like substance abuse or the abuse of each other, that they completely forgot about you. They didn't hug you at night, or they didn't tuck you in. They didn't encourage you. They didn't tell you, or they, this is about neglect, not abuse, this category. So I'll stick to that. It could also be that maybe they were there, maybe the illness of a sibling kept them so busy with that sibling that they didn't make the time to give you physical affection. And of course, the second type of neglect is physical. That would mean not making sure that your physical needs are met, not making sure you're fed properly, not making sure you're clean, not giving you a safe or comfortable place to sleep, or making it impossible for you to get enough sleep at night. So if any of those are relatable for you, then you have a list of adverse childhood experiences which can cause problems in the body. So let's see how ACEs affect your voice. The physical manifestations can manifest as tight jaw, from clenching to not speak, a constricted throat from swallowing your words, being afraid to speak up about how this behavior from your parents or from your siblings was affecting you. Maybe you couldn't tell your parents what was happening to you. Maybe it wasn't even them. Maybe it was somebody else, a teacher or another adult at school, or maybe it was a bully at school. Maybe something was happening to you and you didn't feel comfortable sharing it. Shallow breathing, from staying small and unnoticed, from trying to be invisible. A weak voice, from years of not being heard. You know, they say if you don't use it, you lose it. So if you've practiced staying silent, then your voice can become atrophied. And the last thing here for a physical manifestation is a loss of range from chronic tension. When you have so much tension in your voice, it can be very difficult to go very low and very high. And the emotional patterns that you might experience in adulthood would be the fear of being heard, which of course would cause you to shrink in your voice, would cause you to be quiet when you speak, would make it very difficult for you to relax when you're trying to be heard. Shame around self-expression. This is an important one because when we talk about the voice, we're often talking about the literal voice that we can hear, but it's also a metaphor for who we are inside and feeling comfortable with being ourselves. Difficulty saying no because perhaps you were so concerned about appeasing the parent that was difficult, or appeasing the person who was causing these difficult experiences in your life. Over apologizing, this is a big one. This is a big one for a lot of people. Even if you didn't have a tremendous amount of trauma when you were growing up, our society encourages over apologizing, especially in women. I see it all the time in my work as a teacher. I see it with boys as well, though, to be fair. I think we're growing up We're living in a world now where everybody is expected to apologize constantly. When my students make mistakes at the piano, they say they're sorry, and I have to constantly tell them, don't apologize for making a mistake at the piano. Did you hurt my feelings? Did you say something mean to me? Were you disrespectful? Then don't apologize. There's nothing to say sorry for. And then the last one is the voice gets smaller when challenged. That's a fear response of being heard. When somebody challenges you and you feel afraid. So I hope this has given you something to think about. I do have an exercise for you that's going to help you deal with this. Is pretty heavy stuff. When I first saw this ACE checklist and I went through the list myself, I was shocked to see how many of them I said yes to. And then it all made sense. All the anxiety attacks I had been dealing with, some of the chronic physical illnesses I had dealt with as a child, especially sinus problems, throat problems, ear problems. These all make sense once you look at the ACEs checklist and you start to realize which experiences you might have had. So knowledge is power. It can be very difficult to learn these things, but once you know what's happening, then you can take action. And so in my next video, I'm going to share with you a massage routine that you can do to get some of the tension and the trauma out of this area of your body so that you can start freeing up your voice. The reason why I'm sharing this checklist on my channel is because I believe it's absolutely important that if you want to have a strong, commanding voice, you must get to know the trauma in your body and you must start practicing ways to get it out of your body. And it's amazing that the tension shows up in the voice, and our voice can be used to heal the tension as well. So I will be uploading these videos simultaneously so that you don't have to wait. And I will be linking it right now so that you can go ahead and take action and start doing the massage routine to help free up all the tension in your throat area and begin expressing yourself authentically and unapologetically. And I want you to be able to use your voice with command and confidence. So I hope this helped you. I hope you got some information that will help you moving forward. And I want you to remember something. I want you to keep going because the world needs your unique voice. See you soon.